Well, first of all, hi, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this. How are you doing?
I'm pretty fine. You know, weird times. I think that more or less the whole Europe is like that right now. We're more on the same situation. Trying to do some work, a lot of interviews, and pushing the release of the new album. Health is good, so we're doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, considering the situation, of course. But I guess in Finland it's not that bad, than in the rest of Europe. So I think we are
Yeah, it
quite.
should be better there.
Yeah. Um, anyway, has this situation affected you a lot? Because I know that you're also a live engineer. So
Yes.
was this for you the right time to release this album in a way?
Look, from my experience, no one wants to release albums during this time because usually the actual circle of a release of an album is release an album and you just directly go on a tour. So we try to delay it as much as possible because we signed with Napalm last September or something, and we try to make it, as late as possible. But on the other hand, it was many years after the release of our previous album, so we didn't want to make it even longer. Plus, this album is ready 2 years ago. So with the whole coronavirus situation, plus the negotiations with Napalm Records, it took about 2 years. So we don't want to delay anymore, and we just decided with our label to release it because also at the moment that there are not so many releases during the pandemic, you are able to have more media exposure because also the media don't have a lot of things to cover, so this way you attract probably even more attention than a normal period of time.
Yeah, that's actually interesting way to look at it because I have indeed been doing a lot more interviews lately, but it must be the same thing for you, I guess. Have you been doing a lot more promo for this album than you usually would have done?
Look, this is the first album we're releasing with Napalm Records, so I can tell you that I have already done 3 times the interviews I did with the previous albums, and this is from what our press officer says, the beginning. So, that there will be a lot more to do. So definitely much, much more than what I did before, anyway, because of the label.
Well, speaking of the label, since it's such a new collaboration, how has the experience been for you guys?
It's actually been really fantastic, because we released our first 2 albums from Scarlet Records. We were okay with the guys. They did what the best they could do, but Napalm Records is a much, much bigger label, and the potential of the label is phenomenal and much different, so it's really amazing to see that you have such a team next to you, and you are able to talk about many things apart from the fact that you have a budget. Okay, it's the fact that they have people to do a lot of things, and they're there for you to give you advice and to tell you how to do it and all that stuff. So since the band was always wanted to reach that level, it's a huge pleasure, for us to be working with Napalm Records. They're very nice to us, and we really appreciate it. And we're trying to be as good as possible with all the things that we have to do,
Yeah, and of course they bring in some new audiences, I presume, as well, and with the fact that they post your videos on their label, YouTube, for instance. Have the reactions towards your singles been very good, or have you kept an eye on that at all?
Of course we do. Who doesn't?
I don't know.
Look, we just released our first single a month ago, and the reactions were very, very good. But this is the icebreaker. This is the first ever song released from Napalm Records. So plus the pandemic, that we cannot tour. I think that things go a bit slow and will go a bit slower. It's quite different if we were already an established band and we were releasing, our new album with Napalm Records. We are just a new band, trying to make the next step. So I think that people listen to the first song, and one song is not all the times enough for a good album. So I want to believe that as time goes by and the singles will be coming out, we will generate much more interest. And plus, we're doing a lot of press these days, so things will escalate a little bit. I think people are testing us too, because it's not that many people know the band,
Yeah.
This is the start for us, the beginning, in a way.
Do you feel like especially for the fans who haven't heard the album yet, that the singles represents your music in the best way, or are there still a lot of surprises for fans to discover on your album?
Look, Scar of the Sun was always a band that had the different songs, and we were always a multi-dimensional band. But I think that this album is more focused in regards to the previous albums. But still, we have the character of Scar of the Sun, which is, we have some different songs. Like there are some songs that have only brutal vocals, and there are some songs that have only clean vocals. You know what I mean? I'm sure that people will find that there is a variation in the songs of the album, but there is a straight line. There is a certain direction, and although the songs are different, I believe that they will see a coherence throughout the songs. Now, the first single, I believe that it's quite representative of the whole album, but as you said, it's not all the songs exactly the same and on this vein. Did you listen to the album?
Yeah, of course. I would not do an interview with you if I hadn't. But anyway, this is your third full-length album, and they often say of bands that their third album is the album that they kind of really define and fine-tune their sound and experiment a little bit more. Was that for you also the case? Or how did you experience it?
The difference in this album is quite obvious in regards to the previous two albums. So Experimentation, yes, for sure. But we went on a different path than most of the bands usually do. We started with our first album was the most complex album so far, and then eventually we were going towards a more focused direction, and this is by far the most focused album. The experimentation happened in my vocals, for example, that they are very different in regards to the previous ones. The majority are brutal vocals, but also vocals. On the first album, I had no distorted vocals whatsoever, So this is a big experimentation for me. Also, since the songs are shorter and more aggressive, I would say that there's also a big difference in regards, especially to our first album, that the songs were not as guitar oriented now. I think that we are a band that we will always be experimenting and never releasing the same album over and over. But that's my point of view, People have their own point of view, and we always appreciate and respect their opinion.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that the album was already 2 years ago.
Yes.
Did you, in this meantime, was it already also mixed and mastered, or did you have this whole process of like maybe fine tuning or whatever in these 2 years?
The album has been mixed and mastered twice in this time.
What? How is that? Did you not like the first mix and master, or is there a specific reason for that?
The first mix happened 2 years ago exactly, and it happened. I mixed the album because this is my job actually, and when I finished, I realized that there were a few things I didn't really like that much, and that they could be improved. Now, since we decided to wait until we see what's going to happen with the record label and obviously the coronavirus, I decided to mix the album again. Most of the guys were a bit surprised in the band, were surprised about my decision, and I was trying to convince them that this is the best thing to do, and I believe that I did very well, because I'm like 99% satisfied with the mix of the new album, like the new mix in comparison to the old one, and I'm pretty happy that I took this decision. And then obviously we had to master the album again. So yes, I mean, there's a lot been done on this album.
Yeah.
And you should know that a mixing engineer will never be 100% happy with a mix.
I think that's with all artists, you know.
Yeah.
So I get it, especially if you're a perfectionist, it can be very tough, I think, when you finish something. But it really does sound good in my ears, at least.
Thank you very, very much.
What do you think is the main difference between the first mix and the second mix?
All right. First of all, simple things like the snare, the sound of the snare drum. I didn't like too much the sound of the snare drum on the first mix. And also I found that eventually I found out that the low frequencies of the mix, like the bass, was not as big as I wanted to be, you know. So I started reworking mainly these two things, but eventually I improved the guitars as well. And I corrected a lot of things that I missed on the first mix, that I did it a bit, you know, not in a hurry, but it was not as detailed as this one, you know. And since this is a release from a label such Napalm, I didn't want to give them something that was not, you know, corrected to the maximum possible way. So yeah, I mean, mainly the drum sounds and the bass, but also the guitars are more aggressive and have more juice, if you ask me. Vocals and keyboards are exactly the same.
Now, from the press release, I got that you write most of the songs. What is your process? What was your process for this album?
Apparently, I'm not composing most of the music. I composed most of the music on our first album, 1/3 of the music on our second album, and no music on this album. But I'm writing all the lyrics. Obviously, I'm composing all my vocal lines, and it was just you know, it just happened that I didn't compose music on this album. I will have like 3 songs at least on the next album. You know, the composers of the band are 3 guys, the 2 guitarists and me. So in this album, Greg, one of the guitarists, had a lot of inspiration, and you know, we let him compose the music. Generally, what I do is that I have, if I understood well your question, I have melodies coming to my mind all the time. So I'm recording them on my mobile phone, and then I grab the guitar or the keyboard at the studio, and then I try to, you know, make riffs on the computer through the melodies I compose. Usually you throw away something like 80%, you know, or maybe even more, you know. you have an idea at that moment, and then the next moment it's not as good as you thought initially, you know. So we throw away a lot of music in order to reach that level. Otherwise, the other guys are composing stuff and we're exchanging, you know, files. We say our opinion, and then we probably change some parts. And when we all agree that this is it, then we go to the studio and start rehearsing and see how the song feels, you know, playing it, because it's very important to be able to play it and give, you know, again, materialize the song live also.
Yeah. Now, if I understood correctly, there is some sort of an overarching theme present in the lyrics as well that reflects on society's heaviest burdens. And some of the songs reflect upon the state of Greece and it's, I guess, the financial crisis you guys went through.
Yes.
Was writing the lyrics in that sense a bit cathartic for you as someone from Greece?
Absolutely, because believe me, it's quite different to watch something bad happening to a country. Even if you are ultra sensitive, it's different to see it happening to someone else than when it happens to yourself, you know. And it was cathartic also because I felt a lot of heavy emotions like anger and hatred, you know, because it was the Greek people in the middle of Greek corrupted politicians and European corrupted politicians. And the one that actually lost everything was the everyday normal Greek people, you know, because we all know that the corruption in society is something that is certain, but mainly happens from, you know, the politicians. And at the end of the day, when all this reaches a point that cannot go on anymore, they're just gonna go out and they will bring you the bill. So you will have to pay for things that somebody else did, you know, and this is so unfair. And it felt so bad watching people, like 80-year-old people, walking down the streets and searching on garbage to find something to eat, you know. And as a member of a society on the 21st century, I cannot accept that, you know? Not only for Greece, for every country in the world. And also I cannot accept things like people not having water and electricity in Africa, you know, for example. And on the other hand, spending so much money sending spaceships to Mars. Okay, I'm not against sending spaceships to Mars, but, you know, make sure first that there will be a proper, a minimum level of quality of life to the whole world, because we can do that. You know, it's possible to do it. It's not impossible to do it. And then go and do things like that, you know, and spend so much money on weapons and everything, you know. And I felt so angry when I realized that the politicians took the money to a financial paradise like Cayman Islands, and my father lost 60% of his pension, you know, that for his whole life was paying all his taxes, everything, you know. He was legal, he was doing everything by the book, and then at his age of 60% of his income. How is a person of that age is gonna cope with that, you know? I'm young, I will be able to work, but for old people, what's going on, you know? A lot of things like that. So I had to take it out of my chest, you know, and that's why this album talks a lot about these issues.
Is that also part, or at least I felt that it might be the part of the reason why the album is more kind of angrier maybe than this too?
Yeah, 100%. You're right. You're absolutely right. You know, I was angry. I was really angry, and that's why my vocals came out like that. Also, you know, I had to take it out of me. You know, so I couldn't do the songs that we did on the first album anymore. You know, we had to do something more aggressive and be, you know, and do something like that. Otherwise, you know, you're going crazy. You know.
Yeah. Do you see this band as kind of a political band, or is that not anymore in your future, maybe to talk about these themes that kind of matter to our society?
Look, I don't consider the band a political band, you know, because we're not left, we're not right wing, we're not center. Personally, I see all these things are as dated, completely dated, you know. I think that our purpose on earth is to live in the most healthy way and actually support the earth and the animals and the nature. So to me, this is normal. It's not about being political. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I see people hunting and taking pictures of dead animals, you know, and post it, this is not natural. So it's not about being political. It's about being reasonable. So that's how I personally see it. It's about being reasonable. Um, Probably some people can say that this is also political, but I don't see it like that. You know, it's not that I have a left point of view or a right point of view. I just see things the way they are, and I judge them the way they are, and I want to be reasonable.
Yeah.
So, and realistic, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess, well, at least for the situation that we're living right now today, you might also get some more inspiration from
For sure.
that.
For
Yeah.
sure. Sure.
Uh,
I already have a lot of things in my mind about the next album.
yeah. So a lot of the songs also are related back to science. Is that also an important factor in your source of inspiration while writing the lyrics?
Um, I am also, apart from being a sound engineer, I'm also a civil engineer. I studied civil engineering, so I had science in all my life, you know. So one day I had this idea of using scientific terms, and especially of physics, mathematics, and chemistry, in order to express the things I wanted to express. But since all the lyrics of Scar of the Sun are metaphorical, I used them exact same way. For example, the song Inertia, which is the next single that will come out on Thursday. Inertia, it's the term of physics, but also in Greek, it means being numb and not reacting to whatever they're doing to you. So since all the governments want to do things to their countries and people, and they don't want people to react, you know, and they do everything in order to keep you like that, numb, like giving you, you know, stupid TV shows like Big Brother and all that stuff, and drugs and everything. So, you know, I thought that this is a good idea to use all scientific terms in order to pass it. You know, it's like an artistic point of view, you know, and I think it was quite successful because everyone is paying attention to that for the first time, you know.
Yeah, I guess that there are also quite a lot of words in Greek that are from physics and, you know, science in general. So that's actually quite interesting to hear as well. Anyway, you mentioned already that you're releasing a new single. I noticed that there's also a new video coming. Can you talk a little bit about that, maybe?
Yes. This is actually it was the first video that was filmed, but it's going to be the second video we're releasing. It's the main single of the album, and it's the most impressive video we have done so far. It's not a performance video. There are only a few shots of me singing, but coming from a screen, from a TV screen. It's the whole video is a representation of the cover of the album, and it incorporates a lot of meanings that I have on the album. So you will see a lot of figures that are described in the album, and you will see this woman that is on the cover, which actually represents Greece, and she's on a lab table, and what you see around her are many machines, and that, and she's connected to all of them, and she's getting, she's like an experiment, like Greece was a financial experiment during the years of financial crisis. So Achilleas Gatsopoulos, which is the guy that is doing also our covers, we had a long discussion, as we always do, and he kept the strongest pictures from what I was telling him, and he incorporated everything to this video. I'm pretty sure that people will be. It's like a short movie, and I think it's very impressive.
Yeah, that sounds really excited. I was actually quite, because there's already like a video premiere, and I saw the cover of the thumbnail, and it looked kind of impressive and like kind of connected to your album art.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question. Well, your album art, it is very detailed and it is very, very beautiful. Is there anything more you can talk about related to the cover art and how you came across this artist?
First of all, thank you very much. I'm really glad that you find this beautiful. It's very important to us. Achilleas is the guy that, as I said to you before, Achilleas Gatsopoulos is the guy that is doing all the covers and the videos and the pictures. He used to be the original drummer of Scar of the Sun, and he's my best friend, and he's also the brother of our bassist. Achilleas is a professional graphic designer and director. He's got an impressive portfolio. He worked in movies, in Hollywood movies like Harry Potter and Charlie and Chocolate Factory, and a couple of others Hollywood movies, and he did also many videos both in metal and in pop for pop bands in Germany. Achilleas is in a way the sixth, not in a way, he is the sixth member of Scar of the Sun. He's in all chats and conversations. He's got a word about the music as well. Since the beginning, Achilleas and myself, we have a big love for the 19th century Jugendstil or Art Deco style, and especially for the painter Gustav Klimt. So we decided from the beginning, even from our first demo, to use this style for the covers, So all the covers that we have so far, they have exactly this way of designing, etc. We just want to create an identity for the band. We want people, when they see this cover, the cover of an album, to be able to understand directly that it's Scar of the Sun without seeing the logo. You know what I mean? Yeah. Achilleas again. After this conversation we had, as I said to you, he put everything down on paper, and I was really amazed because it's really impressive, because you have all these things in your mind, and suddenly they just come out as a picture, and as a video. So for me it's even more dramatic when I see it, and I believe that this is the best cover we had so far. And I am really looking forward to play live, because we want to recreate parts of the cover on the shows, on the stage.
Cool. Yeah, that's going to be, well. So are you already thinking about how you will translate everything to live shows right now? Yeah.
Yes, of course we are. We don't want to even think about not being able to play live anymore. So we always wanted to have the possibility to recreate on stage parts of the cover, but so far, we didn't have the power because of the label. Now with Scarlet, probably we will be able to invest a bit more money and bring a few different things to the shows. We started with clothes. First of all, we have I don't know if you watched the first video. We have our own stage clothes anymore. Again, based on this Art Nouveau design, but we are thinking how to recreate the Inertia cover and be able to carry that with us without being too expensive and too difficult to set it up, because these days when you are on a tour with 3-4 bands, it's not easy you don't have enough time and you don't have enough space on stage. But probably at least at the festivals, when you have a bigger stage and more time to set it up, we will be able to do much. But we are thinking about it a lot,
Yeah, that's something to look forward to. I obviously cannot really ask you when you are going on tour, and with who and all that. But what I still would like to ask you, if you have any further plans still for the band if you cannot do this tour.
Sorry, I didn't understand. If we do tour or if we don't.
Yeah, if you don't, if the coronavirus is still ongoing for a while.
Yes, I was thinking to propose to the guys of the band to do after the release of the album, at some point, to do obviously what all the bands are doing, a live streaming show. And probably during the summer, but we have to see how the situation is going to be, because at the moment it's not easy to move from town to town, and one of our guitarists lives in Santorini, which is an island, and he needs to take a plane and a special permit to travel to do that. Also, this guy, our guitarist Alexi, his wife is going to have their first kid in June, so it's a bit hard to tell him, come over, let's rehearse for 3-4 days, and they will have a very, very young kid. So we have to wait and see what's going to happen with this, and probably towards the end of summer, I don't know, do a live show. But even after the release of the album, I mean, now this week we're going to have a second video coming out, and the week before the release we have a third single coming out. So it's going to be 3 singles released before the release of the album, and then I think about after a week after the release there's going to be also a lyric video. So in a way we will have 4 videos out, so there's going to be some material out there for starters, then doing at least 1 show. And if things go well, probably towards the end of the year, probably we'll start having shows. But as we're talking with our booking agent, and we're looking for tours in the beginning of 2022, most probably, because that's when most bands are planning,
Yeah. All right. I think that's.
We hope the first time finally, because we never played so far.
Yeah, that would be really exciting. Anyway, that's it for my questions. Do you have any last thoughts you want to share?
I would like to thank you very much for this interview. It's a pleasure for me talking about the band and explaining to people what our vision is and what we are doing. And I just want to say that I hope all people stay safe to the end. Be very careful and patient, and I really hope that all this will finish soon and we will be able to see each other again, and in shows and in restaurants and in bars, and listen to our favorite music, and have a beer or whatever, and have fun again the soonest possible, because this is a crazy situation we live.